Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. Toute gloire de vos assemblées. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. It's a very sensitive mic this morning. So I'll try not to speak too close to it. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So this morning we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 2, verse 21. Please go ahead and repeat after me. Vidyate hridaya grantish.
Vidyate hridaya grantish.
Chidyante sarva samshaya.
Chidyante sarva samshaya.
Kshiyante chasya karmani.
Kshiyante chasya karmani.
Drishta evatmanishvare. Vidyate hridaya grantish.
Vidyate hridaya grantish.
Chidyante sarva samshaya.
Chidyante sarva samshaya.
Kshiyante chasya karmani.
Kshiyante chasya karmani.
Drishta evatmanishvare.
Drishta evatmanishvare.
Please go ahead and recite.
Vidyate hridaya grantish.
Vidyate hridaya grantish.
Chidyante sarva samshaya.
Chidyante sarva samshaya.
Kshiyante chasya kamani.
Kshiyante chasya karmani.
Drishta evatman sivare.
Drishta evatmanishvare.
Vidyate hridaya grantish.
Vidyate hridaya grantish.
Chidyante sarva samshaya.
Chidyante sarva samshaya.
Kshiyante chasya karmani.
Kshiyante chasya karmani.
Drishta evatmanishvare.
Drishta evatmanishvare.
Vidyate hridaya grantish.
Vidyate hridaya grantish.
Chidyante sarva samshaya.
Chidyante sarva samshaya.
Kshiyante chasya kamani.
Kshiyante chasya karmani.
Drishta evatmanishvare.
Drishta evatmanishvare.
Vidyate hridaya grantish.
Vidyate hridaya grantish.
Chidyante sarva samshaya.
Chidyante sarva samshaya.
Kshiyante chasya karmani.
Kshiyante chasya karmani.
Drishta evamanishvare.
Drishta evatmanishvare. Okay, we'll go ahead and hear the word for word translation. Vidyate,
Vidyate,
pierced.
pierced.
Hridaya,
Hridaya,
heart.
heart.
Granthi,
Granthi,
knots.
knots.
Chidyante,
Chidyante,
cut to pieces.
Cut to pieces.
Sarva,
Sarva,
all.
all.
Samshayaha,
Samshaya,
misgivings.
misgivings.
Kshiyante,
Kshiyante,
terminated.
terminated.
Cha,
Cha,
and.
and
Asya,
Asya,
his.
his.
Karmani,
Karmani,
chain of fruitive actions.
chain of fruitive actions.
Drishte,
Drishte,
having seen.
having seen.
Eva,
Eva,
certainly,
certainly,
Atmani,
Atmani,
unto the self,
unto self,
Ishvare,
Ishvare,
dominating.
Dominating.
Now, translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Thus, the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. Now, before I read the purport, I'll go ahead and say an invocation to invoke the blessings of Srila Prabhupada, my spiritual master, all the previous teachers who have so carefully and attentively passed this knowledge down through the disciplic succession. And I'll say that first because there's a lot of information in this purport, so I'd like to read it paragraph by paragraph and comment a little bit as I go. So, Shri Shri Radha Govinda Madhava, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram, Shri Shri Gauranitai Ki. Om Gyanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunath Tanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I'll read the translation one more time. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as a master. So, as you well know, this verse comes in a line of different verses that describe basically the entire process of devotional service in a nutshell. And Chitralila described that really nicely yesterday. She went through the whole progressions. So now we're coming to this point where it's being described how the knot in the heart is pierced, all misgivings are cut to pieces, The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. So now let's hear Srila Prabhupada's purport describing this verse, explaining the meaning of this verse. Srila Prabhupada says, attaining scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead means seeing one's own self simultaneously. As far as the identity of the living being as spirit self is concerned, there are a number of speculations and misgivings. The materialist does not believe in the existence of the spirit self, and the empiric philosophers believe in the impersonal feature of the whole spirit without individuality of the living beings. But the transcendentalists affirm that the soul and the supersoul are two different identities, qualitatively one, but quantitatively different. There are many other theories, but all these different speculations are at once cleared off as soon as Sri Krishna is realized in truth by the process of Bhakti Yoga. Sri Krishna is like the sun, and the materialistic speculations about the absolute truth are like the darkest midnight. As soon as the Krishna sun is arisen within one's heart, the darkness of materialistic speculations about the absolute truth and the living beings is at once cleared off. In the presence of the sun, the darkness cannot stand, and the relative truths that were hidden within the dense darkness of ignorance become clearly manifested by the mercy of Krishna, who is residing in everyone's heart as the Supersoul. So before trying to say something, I'd like to seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas here today. I'm not very learned or advanced, but I'm praying that by your association and by your blessings, I might be able to say something that is beneficial for us to hear and which is faithful to the line of teachers. So Srila Prabhupada begins by focusing on this word misgivings, which in the Sanskrit is samshaya. So there's various kinds of misgivings which Prabhupada seems to be identifying as different kinds of speculations or misconceptions that may exist about who the Supreme is, what the Supreme is, and also what do the individual living beings, the spiritual sparks in this material world or elsewhere, what connection do they have with the Supreme? What is their identity in relation to the Supreme? Prabhupada is describing there's many different ideas about this, many different theories, conceptions, and the vast majority, he's saying, are misgivings. Because by speculation we can't derive any clear idea of the truth. And Prabhupada hones in on the materialists. The materialist believes that there is no existence of the spiritual self, whereas the empiric philosophers believe that there is the existence of spirit, there is the existence of the self, but their understanding is that the spirit is simply one whole without any individuality of living beings, without any distinction of a supreme being versus individual, smaller, infinitesimal beings. And so essentially the materialists, they very much almost need to believe that there's no spirit soul, that there's no spirit, because it's an integral part of their ideas for enjoying the material world, enjoying life. It's very much a YOLO approach. You only live once, so just enjoy to the max while you've got your youth and your ability to just get out there and grab life by the horns and you know, just squeeze out every last drop of juice that you can from it. There's no need to be concerned with any consequences or afterlife. Once the body is finished, everything is finished. This is one of the misgivings, one of the practically the principal misgiving in modern society, is that this theory is becoming more and more prominent. It's very strong in society. And it's needed because people need to have some justification for living a life which is based on just immediate, instant gratification, or maybe a little bit of delayed gratification so we can have a good retirement as well. But basically, so that they can justify not placing their faith in any kind of higher authority who might restrict their movements in any way. And the second major misgiving being mentioned here is, Prabhupada's going to continue talking about this. It's the distinction between the Supreme and the individual living entities. So this big misgiving is that there ultimately is no distinction. There's only one identity, and that is the identity of the Supreme Whole. And in the idea that the living entities are distinct from that is some kind of temporary illusion that needs to be rectified. Or in other words, all the living beings are God. They just have temporarily forgotten about it. And they need to perform some sort of yoga process and maybe some pranayama or so to remember that they're God. But this is the second great misgiving, and it's a very detrimental idea, because even when a conditioned soul decides that, yes, I do need to go beyond matter, there is more to life than simply enjoying sense objects and enjoying matter, then even though they're headed in the right direction, they can also be caught by a different kind of misgiving, which is that I am God, I am the Supreme, I don't need to serve anybody, I'm at the top. So Srila Prabhupada, he very rightly compares these materialistic speculations about the absolute truth to be like the darkest midnight. Not just darkness, it's like the darkest midnight. It's midnight on the new moon day, where there's absolutely like not even a glimmer of moonlight by which you can. I sometimes, I always immediately notice that because I stay in the guest house, and when you're walking to Mangalarati, you're always acutely aware of how much the moon is present or not present. And so if it's dark, if it's a new moon day, you definitely need to get out your phone and turn on the light, because otherwise you won't see anything. So these speculations that we just, especially the two main ones I just mentioned, Prabhupada says there's practically unlimited faulty ideas and speculations, but these are the two main ones that he pointed out. They're just like that darkest midnight. They're actually very deceptive and detrimental to the welfare of the living being. Just like if we try to make our way from the guest house to the castle without some light on a new moon day, we'll definitely end up in the bushes or something. So that's the effect of the darkest midnight, is it's misleading. One has no clear path to follow. One ends up falling into a ditch. And so those who propagate these kind of dark speculations, they're only leading other blind persons into a ditch. But Prabhupada is describing here that Krishna is like the sun. So as soon as one takes to the process of bhakti yoga, which is capable of revealing the truth, the absolute truth, with clarity, then immediately this darkness is at once cleared off. So let's go ahead and move forward to the next purport. Oh, no, there's one other thing that is really important also, is that Prabhupada is describing that as soon as the sun rises in the sky, not only can we recognize that the sun is there, but by the light of the sun, we can suddenly see, I can see myself, I can see that I'm here, and I can see that Dimitri is there, and I can see others around me are here, and I can see my environment very clearly, I can see what's going on around me very clearly. Whereas when the sun is absent, not only can I not see the sun, but I can't see myself, I can't see others, I don't understand what is going on in my environment or where I am. So Krishna in that sense is just like the sun. When we invite Krishna into our life to rise within our heart by adopting the processes of devotional service, then that has more than one effect. Not only are we then able to see Krishna, to see that Krishna is there in our life as the supreme controller of everything, the supreme proprietor of everything, the supreme friend of every living being, and but we can also see ourselves clearly. I can see myself clearly. I can see those around me clearly for who they really are. And I can see very clearly what is actually the situation in the material world, in the environment around me. And so that allows me to understand that actually I'm just this infinitesimal, small spirit spark of Krishna. And Krishna, so kind, he's seated in my heart, he's seated in the hearts of every other living being, but there's this eternal distinction of a relationship between the Supreme Master and his servants. And also we can clearly understand that the material world is composed of the energy of the Lord, composed of the three modes of material nature, and that we're different from the bodies that we're inhabiting, and that we can't be happy by trying to manipulate the material energy, even if we've got a machine which is very well equipped for that, if we're very young and we've got lots of vital energy. Still, there's, no matter how much this machine of the body interacts with the various elements of the material world, that actually has nothing to do with me. That can't bring me any happiness. So let's move on to the next paragraph. In the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada says, the Lord says that in order to show special favor to his pure devotees, he personally eradicates the dense darkness of all misgivings by switching on the light of pure knowledge within the heart of a devotee. Therefore, because the personality of Godhead is taking charge of illuminating the heart of his devotee, certainly a devotee engaged in his service in transcendental love cannot remain in darkness. He comes to know everything of the absolute and the relative truths. The devotee cannot remain in darkness, and because a devotee is enlightened by the personality of Godhead, his knowledge is certainly perfect. This is not the case for those who speculate on the absolute truth by dint of their own limited power of approach. Perfect knowledge is called parampara, or deductive knowledge coming down from the authority to the submissive oral receiver who is bona fide by service and surrender. One cannot challenge the authority of the Supreme and know him also at the same time. He, the Supreme, reserves the right of not being exposed to such a challenging spirit of an insignificant spark of the whole, a spark subjected to the control of illusory energy. The devotees are submissive, and therefore the transcendental knowledge descends from the personality of Godhead to Brahma, and from Brahma to his sons and disciples in succession. This process is helped by the supersoul within such devotees. That is the perfect way of learning transcendental knowledge. So Srila Prabhupada here quotes a verse from Bhagavad Gita, which is evidence of what he was already saying about how as soon as Krishna is present, he's like a light that clarifies the whole situation. Krishna is saying that he shows a special favor to his devotees, to those who are engaged in devotional service, by switching on the light of pure knowledge. So that is the criteria that one dedicates oneself to the Lord. And so in that way, the devotee can know everything about the absolute truth. He can also understand the various relative truths. And those who take the path of utilizing their own limited power, the power of their limited senses, limited sight, limited hearing, to try and understand what is reality, what is truth, they're not able to get that clarity. They can at best get a fuzzy understanding of the various reactions that are taking place in the material world, but they're not able to go any further than that. The very limited sphere of knowledge that they're able to explore, a very limited field. And that's inevitable, because even if we design instruments which we utilize to kind of extend the range of our vision, or extend the range to which we can hear in the universe, still all of those various instruments are created by the same imperfect senses. And every instrument has a need to be regularly tuned and fine-tuned and checked to make sure that it's accurate. But whose senses are checking for the accuracy of those instruments? The same inaccurate instruments of our senses. So it's not possible for those senses to guarantee the accuracy of those machines. Prabhupada says here that perfect knowledge actually comes down in parampara. It's deductive knowledge. And it comes down from the authority, which is ultimately Krishna, ultimately the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it comes down to the submissive oral receiver, who is bona fide by service and surrender. That's a very interesting statement, because sometimes if you need to verify somebody's position, you'll say, please show us your bona fides. For example, if somebody comes in and their authority, maybe the FBI, of course we're in France, so I think that would be like the Police Nationale, but let's say the local police are dealing with some criminal issue, then the national police might come in and say, okay, we're taking over our case, this is out of your hands now. We're FBI, we're Police Nationale. Then of course the police, the municipal police, will immediately ask to show us your bona fides, show us your credentials. And then of course they'll take out their badge, FBI, and then, okay. But if they're not able to provide some credentials, some bona fides, then obviously they won't be accepted. Their authority won't be accepted. And in fact, the police might say, actually get down on your knees, we're going to arrest you for imitating police authority. So what are the bona fides, or the credentials by which one is able to understand the absolute truth, to be able to understand what is actually reality? It's being stated here, service and surrender. So we can study even the Vedic literatures very exhaustively, as the empiric philosophers of the Vedas do. But if they haven't attained their credentials or their bona fides by engaging in service to the Supreme and by surrendering to the Supreme, that surrender has been nicely summed up by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in one of his songs. He says, Manasa deho geho jo kichu mor arpilu tuwa pade nanda kishore. He says, oh my Lord, my house, my family, my mind, everything that I own, this belongs to you. I'm just a caretaker. I'm just maintaining these things for your pleasure, but I offer out all of this in service to you. So this is a very excellent resume or summary of what surrender is. So without undertaking the service and surrender to the Supreme, one's not actually going to have the bona fides or credentials to understand the message of the Vedas or to understand the universe by their own investigation. And the reason why this is exposed in the next sentences, because the Supreme reserves the right of not exposing himself to anyone and everyone. And so if somebody is approaching him with a challenging spirit, rather than a receptive and submissive spirit, he's not obliged to reveal himself to that person. Some people may say, show me God, then I'll believe in him. He needs to descend down to my level and on my command, God must reveal himself. Otherwise I won't accept. That means he's not actually understanding the relationship, right? And even just amongst us limited, smaller beings, we are also not obliged. We're not supreme. We're so limited, and yet even we are not obliged to reveal ourselves to somebody. If somebody demands, come on, tell me what your favorite hobbies are. No. Like, I don't have that relationship with you. I don't trust you. So there's a way in which only if we've developed a relationship of trust with somebody, we recognize that that person is our friend because we've maybe had some reciprocal dealings of service with them, and we've seen that we feel this is somebody I can trust, this is somebody I can reveal myself to. Then only will I reveal myself. So I'm not obliged, even as a tiny little being. So what to speak of the Supreme? Krishna is known as the seer, and all the living entities in this world, or anywhere else, small living entities, we are the seen. So we are seen by Krishna. He very easily at any moment can see even into our hearts, into our thoughts, and understand exactly where we are, what we're thinking, what we're doing. We don't have that ability to see him in that way. And even on the material platform, I like this example of, for example, let's take the example of a chess player who's very advanced, and he's sitting and he's playing chess with a junior chess player. Now, because that chess player is superior, practically any move that the junior chess player makes, he immediately understands what he's doing, what he's trying to accomplish. He immediately sees his plan and can just effortlessly counteract it, right? But that junior chess player, even if he or she may think like, oh, I'm pretty good, when actually faced with a superior chess player, cannot understand what that person is doing when they're making moves. They may think like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go down this way, I'm going to get his bishop, and then I'll get the checkmate. And then when the other chess player moves somewhere unexpectedly, like, oh wait, he was supposed to move there so that I could take his rook, and then I was going, oh, what is he doing? Like, oh, he left himself completely open, I'm going to get him. But then, before he knows it, he's been checkmated, and he's like, I don't even know what just happened here. Yeah. So this is, even on the relative platform, we can see this is the relationship between a superior and an inferior. That the person in the superior position can automatically see and understand what the junior person is doing, but the inferior person has no context or wherewithal to understand what a superior person is doing or how they're doing. But if that superior chess player then decides to reveal to the junior chess player, okay, this was my strategy, this was how I was able to defeat you so quickly, I was thinking da 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 da, then only, if he chooses to reveal his plan, can the junior chess player understand. So this is the relationship actually that every living being has in relationship to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's supremely superior. There's no question of us forcing his hand to reveal himself to us. So we have to take a humble position in relationship to Krishna. And this is practically the whole philosophy behind Krishna consciousness, is just to learn how to become a humble servant in the face of the Lord. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore emphasized so much that it's not our process to do like the materialists and the empiric speculators and just be endeavoring to see the truth, to find out, to dig deeply enough to discover the truth. We want to act in such a way that the truth, the absolute truth, is pleased to reveal himself to us. And this is taking the humble position, that I'm not able to force that connection to open, but I can simply take the role of a humble servant and beg the Lord for some understanding, for some knowledge of him, for some ability to come closer to him. And this process is through the disciplic succession, by humbling oneself before Krishna's representatives and agreeing to submissively serve and receive the knowledge in that way. And this process is also helped by the Supersoul within both the teacher and disciple. So now let's go to the final paragraph in the purport. Srila Prabhupada says, this enlightenment perfectly enables the devotee to distinguish spirit from matter, because the knot of spirit and matter is untied by the Lord. This knot is called ahankara. And ahankara falsely obliges a living being to become identified with matter. As soon as this knot is loosened, therefore, all the clouds of doubt are at once cleared off. One sees his master and fully engages himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, making a full termination of the chain of fruitive action. In material existence, a living being creates his own chain of fruitive work and enjoys the good and bad effects of those actions, life after life. But as soon as he engages himself in the loving service of the Lord, he at once becomes free from the chain of karma. His actions no longer create any reaction. So yes, Srila Prabhupada is describing here that this knot in the heart is actually the ahankara, the false ego. And he's saying that basically this knot, the knot of the false ego, is what forces spirit to be entangled with matter, as if in a knot. So actually the spirit soul is by nature completely pure, eternal, full of bliss and full of knowledge. And that spirit soul can never actually be contaminated by matter, not in the same way that, for example, a glass of water that could be contaminated by, something that you put in it, some dirt. If you put some dirt in there, they actually become mixed, and good luck trying to separate it. It's very difficult. But actually, the spirit soul never actually becomes contaminated by matter, but by developing a false sense of identity in relationship to matter. It's like taking spirit and matter and sort of tying them into a knot. And so we're forced into existence in that way, where we think that I am this body, I am an American, a Frenchman, a Russian, or I'm a man, I'm a woman, or I'm a CEO, or I'm a street sweeper, or whatever the case may be. And the reason that we have to take this ahankara is because the actual role or raison d'etre, the reason for being of a living being, is described by Lord Chaitanya. Jivara Swarupa Hoy Krishnana Nityadas. Our true role is actually to be a servant of Krishna. But if we ever desire, because the living entity is always given his independence, if we ever desire, well, what if I could maybe be a better enjoyer or leader than Krishna? Or what if I could have a better life in some other arrangement? Then Krishna doesn't force living entities to remain in the loving service of the Lord. He allows them to accept a false identity. And of course, in order to entertain these kinds of ideas like I will control, and I will enjoy, and I will be the center, then of course we have to take some kind of false conception of self. We have to download some different software, because that's not compatible with the spiritual world. It's not compatible with the spiritual identity. It's sort of like if you've got some software that's meant to be run on a Mac and you're trying to install it on your Windows PC. So you're like, you can't do that. So you can't install this software that I will control and enjoy and have it in your spiritual identity in the spiritual world. It's a completely incompatible situation. Just like Prabhupada said earlier, that one cannot challenge the authority of the Supreme and also at the same time know him. So if you're challenging the nature of the Supreme, then you're not going to get anywhere near him. But if you're approaching in a humble way, then you can know him. So they're incompatible ideas. And so we have to take, in order to interface with the material world and to be able to interface with these ideas that I'll be the center, we have to download some different software. And that's the false ego. We become enmeshed in the false ego. And but when that knot is loosened and when it's cleared up, one sees clearly the difference between master and servant. And that's an important description, because in the translation of this verse we might have heard something that was a little bit shocking, a little bit jarring. What did it say? It said, the chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. Oh, that's me, myself, I'm the master. But we have to understand, this is why Prabhupada is giving so much elaboration on what is a misgiving. Krishna is the supreme self. He is the self of our self. He's the root of our being. And in one sense, our identity with Krishna, qualitatively speaking, is one, just as the identity of different family members in a loving family is one, because they're all part of that same family. And they're all acting only in the interest of that family. So when one sees the self as master, here it means the supreme self, the supreme controller. And so therefore Prabhupada is clarifying so much here. What is the difference between the individual self and the supreme self? So this was all that I have to say on today's verse and purport. Would anybody like to share any reflections, or if anybody has any questions, we can try to answer to the best of our ability. Or a reflection can also be anything that you heard that just stuck in your mind, or that was interesting or insightful. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share?
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. So I was thinking about this imperfect senses creating imperfect machines or instruments. Immediately when you said that, the Hubble telescope came to mind. Thousands of people, all educated scientists, created or made the Hubble telescope. But when they sent it up there and opened the eyes of the telescope, the pictures they got were fuzzy. And they couldn't figure out why, because there was miscalculation by a few millimeters. So then they had to send astronauts up there
Mm-hmm.
to adjust it, so then they could see the other planets and galaxies and so on. But you know, this just goes to show that doesn't matter how advanced we are, how knowledgeable we are, you know, it's prone to mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was, you know, when I first saw that, I was so shocked. I thought, how can it be that, you know, you've got thousands of people who are working on this, you know, did anybody test it, and things like that. So we get so entangled in it, thinking, yeah, we are going to make the perfect instrument. And yeah, and I think it happens with lots of cars and any machine we make. Eventually there's a fault, and you know, then you get another scientist coming in and saying, you know, the theory that you have is wrong, my theory is correct.
Yeah.
And it just goes on and on. Whereas our Shastras are the absolute truth. You know, we know about the universes, and scientists are still thinking, you know, are there parallel universes going on? You just have to, you know, read the Shastras and you tell them there's millions of universes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's because everybody wants to say, you know, I discovered this planet, or I did this, or I did that. And you know, you mentioned a few times that I'm the controller. So everybody tries to, in a way, say, well, what you've done is good, but I'm going to do something better, because they want to be the master.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good lesson for us as well in, you know, in our practice, that we shouldn't think that I'm doing everything perfectly, because we still have, you know, our minds and maybe some egos and things like that. So we should always go back to basics and say,
Right.
okay, you know, I'm doing this, but I'm doing it to my best ability. If I make a mistake, like you said at the beginning, you know, you're not, you don't know everything about the Shastras and so on. So similarly, in our practice, we should be looking at that as well.
Thank you. Yeah, devotee asked Vaisheshika Prabhu, kind of like as a funny sort of question, like, I think everybody in the room was answering this one kind of funny question, like if you had if you were to write an autobiography, what would you call it? And a lot of devotees were like, I would call my autobiography the lowest of the low, and the fallen, the most fallen. And it was going around to everybody, and then it got to Vaisheshika Prabhu, who said, my autobiography would be called Rice Dal Chapati, a lifetime of sticking to the basics. And he's saying, he was describing that's really what Krishna, that's one thing that we need to keep in mind throughout the course of our Krishna consciousness is always go back to the basics and really stick to the basics. Or as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, he gives this instruction, follow the simple path strictly. Follow the simple path strictly. And so we can have so many nice things as well, like rasgulla and gulab jamun, but we can't live off of a diet of rasgulla. So if we're thinking like, no, I've already done the rice dal chapati, I'm going to go for a bucket of gulab jamun. So rice dal chapati is when we're 2 years old, it's the best balanced meal we can eat, and when we're 50 years old and 80 years old, so you don't outgrow rice dal and chapati. All right, thank you, Prabhu. So I'll go ahead and end here because we're 5 minutes past the ending time. Forgive me. And thank you so much. It was really nice to have your association this morning and be able to discuss with you Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantharaja Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Shantatma Prabhu ki.
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.